Story 1. He had a roller coaster life. I admire him more than most people I know, but I cannot understand why I ever found him physically attractive. Maybe it was always just his heart. By the age of 25, he had a Doctor of Philosophy degree, a wife, and was a captain in the Navy. By 30, he had 2 Doctor of Philosophy degrees, a small business where he made an enormous amount of money, and his wife was pregnant. By 31, he was diagnosed with stage 4 skin cancer, which swiftly spread to his lymph nodes, bones, esophagus, and a few other places. He was told he had little chance of surviving 5 more years. Even with the best health insurance money could buy, it still left him financially devastated. 7 years later, he is living a comfortable but not extravagant life as a civilian contractor for the Navy, with the same wife and 2 happy, healthy children, and he spends most of his free time advocating for better public health care. Story 2. She committed suicide. I found out later that she had a crush on me, too. Fuck life sometimes. Story 3. I remember walking up to her and asking if we could talk in private. She said I could say what I needed in front of everyone. Her friends were all around. I asked if she wanted to go on a date. She burst out laughing and said, "Yeah. No. That was rough. I looked her up last year and she is a cage fighter now." What? Story 4. I began acting. It's weird. Every so often I see someone in a commercial and think, "Oh, I know them. My crush is an incredibly sweet person. So I'm glad." Story 5. I had 2 unrealized crushes in high school. One became a teacher and a musician. She is married and has 1 or 2 children. We have kept loose contact via social media and ran into each other at a New Year's Eve party shortly before she got married. I was introduced to her now husband as her favorite ex ever. He seemed like a decent person, and I am happy for her. I believe the other became a United States attorney. I have not heard from her since Google Plus existed. I imagine she is still very productive and would be disappointed in my life choices. Story 6. My only girlfriend in high school was my crush. Her mother banned her from dating me after about a year because my girlfriend admitted we were fooling around. This was about 20 years ago. She still lives with her mother, has no children, and, as far as I know, never dated seriously again after her mother broke us up. She also has the same job she had in high school. It is as if her mother went into protective overdrive and my former girlfriend never grew up. Story 7. I met her in 1987. We got married 5 years ago. We used to go to the same punk shows. That's where we met. Story 8. My best friend turned out to be a pedophile. She had a pattern of preferring younger teenagers. At 17, she had a 13-year-old boyfriend, and she continued to be attracted to younger teenagers into her 20s and 30s. Story 9. I found her on Tinder. She said I was hot and pointed out that I was the loser she used to know in high school. We had a big laugh. It's been a little over a year. Now we send each other memes and hang out occasionally when the pandemic isn't being difficult. Story 10. She is still attractive, successful, and a wealthy entrepreneur. She married someone who has the same first name as mine. He quit his job to brew beer. We connected during our freshman year of college and she wrote me letters. I had a crush on her for a while but assumed she was not interested, so I dated other people. Later I learned she had a crush on me in our senior year, but by the time I realized it she had moved on. No one to blame but myself. Story 11. I was a freshman and had a crush on a senior. To make it more interesting, she was a cheerleader, and her brother played quarterback for the football team and earned a college scholarship. She showed up at a football game a couple of years later with a baby in tow. She is married now and back in her hometown. That is about all I know. Story 12. They both became fine men. One has a large family and is a minister. The other has 1 child and is a college professor. Both married kind partners and are happy. They were good people in high school and grew into responsible adults. I have both on Facebook, and we have stayed in peripheral contact over the years. Story 13. I don't know about you guys, but I had way too many crushes in high school. Story 14. She is an extremely talented molecular biologist in Boston and remains very attractive. Many people feel they know the same person. It is surprising how many molecular biologists people know. Story 15. She became a professional cheerleader and died of breast cancer at 34. Searching for names from high school is surreal. Edit. Thank you for all the support, Reddit family. I am surprised by how many people here knew her. It reassures me to know such a beautiful girl touched people's hearts and is not forgotten. Story 16. My first high school classmate, who sat next to me in freshman year English, later became a fitness model. Story 17. My husband and I were both in first marriages that did not work out, and we reconnected after our divorces. If only I had confessed that I had a crush on him in high school, it might have saved me a lot of trouble. Laughing out loud. Update. Thank you for the awards, everyone. Story 18. I briefly worked with her and did not realize who she was until I left for another job. She looked almost unrecognizable. It had been 15 years since I last saw her. She is married with 2 children now, so a fairly standard life. Story 19. My friend's high school crush was Tom Holland. They went to the same school. Story 20. I never made a move in high school. About 7 years after graduating, I saw her on social media and thought what the hell, so I asked her out. We have been dating for about 2 years, and I am about to pop the big question. Story 21. Back when I was younger and had a crush, I logged on to America Online Instant Messenger and had gotten my crush's screen name from a friend. I worked up the nerve to start a conversation with him. After some awkward small talk, he sent me a message in Comic Sans on a black background with red lettering, in French. I went to Google for a translation and found that he had called me a pig in French. As an awkward, chubby teenager, I was crushed. The hurt was made worse by remembering that a few weeks earlier I had chosen to take French class the next year and could not change it. Years later, now that I have blossomed, he follows me on every social media platform and has reached out a couple of times to try to flirt or hang out. Hard pass. I believe he moved away and is a teacher now. Story 22. She died by suicide a few years after high school. She had been a teacher and was caught having an affair with a female student. Reddit is very strange. There are some interesting comments here. Story 23. A hot douche who doesn't really do much except go to the gym. To be fair, that's how he was in high school. I just liked it back then. Story 24. He overdosed and died last year. I saw him before he was taken off life support with a close mutual friend of ours. He was an organ donor as well. It was surreal to see him dwarfed by all the machines. He had one of the largest hearts I have ever come across. Edit. I graduated in the early 2000s and again last year in 2019. What on earth is time even anymore? Story 25. She became pregnant shortly after we graduated. Story 26. She passed away during our senior year, 6 months after she agreed to marry me. Story 27. She is still very attractive. I am sure she remained the amazing, kind person she has always been. She moved to another country, speaks several languages, and is more successful than I imagined. She seems happy, but we have not spoken since I told her how I felt 20 years ago. Story 28. She went on to be a teenage model for hair products, graduated from Yale, toured Europe, and opened her own successful ceramics company whose work is sold worldwide and is often featured in magazines. She makes me feel like shit every time I think of her. Story 29. Going to an all-boys school made it hard to have realistic crushes. I ran into one of my teachers years later, and she still looked beautiful. Story 30. I checked. She is a very successful artist and an art teacher at a renowned university in France. She was decorated as a Chevalier des Arts et des Lettres. Note: I am not willing to give more details. She is French and does not teach in Paris. Story 31. My high school ex randomly sent me a text years after we split up that said he knew I did not like metal, but thought I would like this, and included a link to a clarinet cover of a metal song. I had played clarinet in high school, but I had hated playing it. Little did he know I was now a total metalhead. Story 32. There was a girl I admired for a while. She did not give me the time of day after my freshman year, though. She was co-valedictorian and hugged me as I crossed the stage at graduation. No one else did. I am still confused about that 6 years later. She went on to medical school and is either married or engaged to a man she met there. Overall, she is doing very well. Thank you for the warm wishes and thoughts. Story 33. I had several. One of them is still a close friend and became a primary care doctor. He also officiated my wedding. I have no idea what happened to another one. We did not have overlapping friend groups and she does not use social media. One of them is a math professor now, which is pretty cool. My biggest crush in high school was my longtime neighbor, but it fizzled out quickly after we went to homecoming together. We are still good friends, and our families keep in touch. He also introduced me to my husband. Story 34. I had 3 relationships. One from the first 2 years and 2 from the last 2. The first is a transgender man who walked to Colorado to join a cult or commune. He now lives in Arizona and records rap albums. The second woman moved to Florida and lives in a swamp. She contacts me periodically to say she misses me, to call me dumb for not following through, and to suggest we should get married. The third was a missionary. She lost interest as she grew up, returned home, and I introduced her to one of my closest friends. They have been married for 15 years. 0 out of 3. Story 35. Just checking in to confirm that I was no one's high school crush. Carry on. Story 36. She turned out great. She married me. We met in kindergarten. Story 37. We reconnected through Facebook in our late 40s. I cannot stand it anymore, but now she is my wife. She is still beautiful. Story 38. One I do not keep track of at all. I am not sure what she is up to. The other I married turned out to be awesome. Story 39. Turns out I was attracted to losers and burnouts, laughing out loud. That hasn't changed much. Story 40. She knew over 30 years ago, but it was unrequited. We have been in casual contact through Facebook for the past several years, and before that my then wife and I had her and her husband over for dinner. From what I can tell, she has become someone I would have been happy with. It is nice to see my high school perspective was partly right. I think we would be good friends if we lived closer. She appears to be living a good life with her husband and family. With my second wife, I am happier than I could have imagined. Life worked out well. Story 41. It was one of those days when someone suddenly popped into your head and you decided to look them up on Facebook. I found him. He had become a pilot. I added him and we became Facebook friends. It turned out he had a flight attendant girlfriend and they were traveling together. A few months after becoming Facebook friends, they announced they were expecting a baby. Story 42. She is doing fairly well and seems to have her life together, although she has had a few setbacks. She has returned to university because job prospects in her field were poor, but she seems to be enjoying it. She is dating me though, so clearly her judgment is poor. Story 43. Still cute as heck, one of the kindest and most sensitive people I know, and one of my best friends 15 years later. He recently divorced. His wife was gay and needed time and support to come to terms with that. Now he and I are slowly testing the waters. What started as a crush has matured into a deep and rich friendship, and however it may unfold, I am grateful to have that relationship in my life. Story 44. One of them is homeless and struggling with drug addiction. The other is famous in his home country, a best-selling author who regularly appears on television. I no longer have a crush on him, but I am glad we are still friends and happy for his success. I guess they balance one another out. Story 45. He is still attractive. He received a part-time scholarship to study engineering and is dating a Miss Spain runner-up. Story 46. She worked with the Obama administration. I forgot in what capacity. She married some politician's son. I do not remember and do not care to look it up. She is happy, and that is the only thing that matters. She was also our school's valedictorian. She was so busy with her job she could not organize our high school reunion, so that was a plus. I was not head over heels for her. I admired her, but I knew I was not right for her. Then there was another crush of mine. We ran into each other years after graduation at a grocery store. After talking, I asked her to dinner at my house. I pulled out all the stops. I bought rainbow trout fillets and made all the fixings. At 6:30, I opened the door and she said, "Who is this man behind her?" She told me he was her fiancé, which she had neglected to mention. It turned out they wanted to sell me on a multi-level marketing scheme. She tried to cross the threshold. I put my arm out and asked them politely to leave. I turned away from the door and had the saddest meal I have ever eaten. Thank you for the hugs. Reddit family. Story 47. He joined the military and served for several years. He was in after the Vietnam War and out before the Gulf War, so I am not sure if he saw much active duty. He then settled in Korea, where he trained in Taekwondo, fought professionally, and won many awards. He attained the rank of Grandmaster and returned to the United States, where he opened a very successful school that specializes in Taekwondo and Hapkido. He has opened additional locations and is currently looking to open one in our old hometown. I imagine that will happen after the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic. Story 48. I had a few friends in high school. One moved away after sophomore year and no one knew why. She reached out to me when I had a mental breakdown online and said she could understand what I was going through. Some fucked up things happened to her, though she never said what specifically. I did not ask further because it was not my business to pry. I am not sure how she is now. Another became very attractive after high school and earned a degree in science. Again, I am not sure where she is now, but I think she is doing all right. The third works at a bank. We ended on bad terms, partially my fault. I found out she had been making fun of me behind my back for months, so I sent her an angry message. I have not seen her since then. Story 49. I found out she was overweight and unattractive, and then I realized I was too. Story 50. One is on active duty in the military and has a very successful career as an officer. The other is successful in the arts. Both are married to partners who treat them well. I am glad they are both happy. My life is going well here, so I have no hard feelings. Story 51. The guy I had a crush on for 2.5 years did not turn out well. I am still friends with his younger sister, so I know he recently received his third conviction for driving under the influence and his second divorce. He is currently living in a friend's basement and occasionally works for that friend's moving company as a mover, but only when he feels like it. He spends all his money on alcohol and owes the two mothers of his 5 children a lot of child support. He was very attractive in high school. My second high school crush is the only reason I got over my first. He is doing great, mostly because he has been married to me for almost 20 years. Story 52. He posts mediocre photos on Facebook with pretentious, artsy captions that make me cringe and his name watermarked on them. Story 53. She graduated from Harvard University with degrees in writing and medicine. She became a leading surgeon in a major city. I have always been extremely proud of her and put her on a pedestal. I suppose with good reason. Story 54. It turned out he is gay and was fired from a teaching job after inappropriate relationships with male students were reported. To my knowledge, he did not have physical relations with the students, but he was caught sending lewd text messages and other inappropriate communications. Story 55. They are all stunning and wildly successful. One in particular was a crush with a similar name to mine dating back to elementary school, and she became the longest crush I have ever had, a decade. She still appears in a recurring dream sequence, especially after the bitter and frankly traumatic rejection when I confessed to her and we parted ways. We were classmates for 5 years and then went to different schools. After the separation, the dreams began, and every time I woke up, I felt emotional all over again. It took me another 5 painful years to stop crushing on her, but the dreams never stopped. Just last week, I had an update to the dream sequence where we actually talked for the first time in a decade of Groundhog Day level dreams. I know it is pathetic. Life update on that crush. She currently aspires to be an architect and had an equally cool boyfriend, so I doubt she looked back on the past as much as I did. I recently tried to follow her on social media to get an update, but she has not accepted my request, so I will not force contact. Story 56. He is 32, still works at the same pizza place, and is a conspiracy theorist, so I feel like I dodged a bullet. Story 57. My crush became a self-righteous jerk who still lives with his parents. He became livid when he learned that my husband and I had a baby. Apparently, I was supposed to be his backup plan if he could not find anyone better. Story 58. Like most of my classmates, I was on drugs and in and out of trouble. Few have actually made a good life for themselves. Story 59. Oh, one I can comment on. To be honest, this is more a junior high crush than a high school one, but the story stands. On my first day of 7th grade, I had just moved to a new school and I met a girl named Charlie. Charlie had a twin named Christine. Charlie insisted on introducing me to Christine and called her across the lunch area. Christine was very clumsy and tripped, almost landing on top of me. I fell head over heels, but I was too afraid to say anything. A few years later, I left the Navy and went home and needed a place to stay for a few days. Charlie offered Christine's spare room. I moved in and, in the middle of the night, I saw Christine for the first time since 2007. My jaw dropped. She had always been attractive, but she had become a health nut after having 2 kids with her ex. The crush reappeared, but this time I had post-Navy confidence and said something. It turned out she had fallen for me back in 2007 on that day too, but she had been scared and nervous. Within a week of moving in, we were dating. It's been almost 4 years, and we have added 2 more kids to the lot. We are still very much in love and happy. She turned out to be a wonderful, smart, caring woman who is a sucker for dumplings and cheesy romances. Edit. Thanks for the award, my first one. Thanks again for all the awards and comments. My wife enjoyed reading them and teased me about being too chicken when we were kids. Story 60. We split up during our sophomore year of high school and went our separate ways, but we kept in sporadic contact as he prepared to go to Iraq. Years later, he got divorced. In 2019, my husband died in a motorcycle accident. We reconnected and decided to spend time together as friends. By the second date, we were inseparable. We live together and are incredibly happy. He is extremely supportive of the grief I still struggle with. He is a great provider and the most loving, selfless person I have known in a very long time. I feel very lucky to have gotten a second chance with my high school crush and first love. Story 61. The first man has been married almost 25 years to a woman and has 2 children, but he is a serial cheater and I dodged a bullet. The second man owns the farm next to me. He has been married 15 years and has a daughter, yet he also constantly cheats on his wife. Thank God I saw the pattern and broke the cycle. I have been married 18 years to a good man, and the only cheating we do is financial, which is still not cool. I am right where I am supposed to be. Story 62. She is still gorgeous and is pretty successful. I am fat now and drink alone. Story 63. She is bisexual and married to a woman. She is a speech therapist. She is still very attractive and a nice person. I am happy her life turned out well. Story 64. I realized I was no longer young the day every girl I had a crush on in high school had become a mother, a lesbian, or both. Story 65. Leathery. A decade working on Hawaiian beaches can make you look 10 years older than you are. Wear sunscreen. Story 66. When we dated, he was a promising boxer. Now he sells shitty timeshares in Las Vegas. Story 67. She is a TikTok influencer who shaved off her eyebrows and draws symbols on her face. Story 68. What are the odds that 2 Redditors are posting about each other in response to this question, unbeknownst to both? Story 69. She is aged beautifully, with 3 children, and appears perfectly content. Good for her, honestly. Story 70. It's the same as when we were just leaving school. That's why he is an ex. Story 71. I think he is doing well. He has a young son and seems happy with his girlfriend. We had a brief fling, and although it was fun, I realized I did not want a long-term relationship because he appeared to have a problem with alcohol. Story 72. She was still super hot. She married some loser and had a few kids with him. That loser was me. We just celebrated 22 years of marriage. Words are hard. Story 73. He died trying to save his friends. I'm sure he would have been a kind, righteous, responsible adult. I had a huge crush on him in high school. He volunteered, excelled in sports, and danced. He was a wonderful person. I think he had a crush on me too and used to do small romantic things for me, but we never had a chance to tell each other. We lived in an area with several waterfalls and caves, and a group of boys loved exploring them. My crush was not a good swimmer and did not go into the water that day. He was sitting on some rocks watching his friends have fun with another boy. His friends were sucked into a whirlpool, and this is what I never understood. Knowing he could not swim, he jumped in to save them. His other friend just watched and did not jump in. My crush did not make it out alive. I think they recovered his body after a few days. I always regretted not getting the chance to tell him how I felt, but I hope he knew. Story 74. She is still gorgeous, smart, and funny. But now I see she has a drinking problem and is emotionally abusive to friends. People like her are never lonely for long. Story 75. I married him. Now I am having his baby, and he is making me fondue for Valentine's Day. Story 76. Crush 1 works at a bank. He was a shy guy. Crush 2 works at a marketing agency. He was a metalhead. Crush 3 is a chemical engineer, and I suspect he is a closeted bisexual. In high school, we used to flirt in the hallways, and we once went for ice cream at the local convenience store, but nothing happened beyond that. We had fun checking out gossip magazine covers. Crush 4 became a standard of handsomeness for me. He always wanted to be a pilot like his dad, and I'm glad he made it. He recently got married. Crush 5 is a software engineer and appears to be in a better financial position. I'm glad he achieved his goals. Story 77. A couple of years after graduating, she realized she was asexual, moved across the country, and is now married to another asexual person. She remains a big Doctor Who fan. Recently, I saw a picture of her wearing a ball gown themed after time and relative dimension in space. Story 78. She is currently unemployed with 3 children and in the middle of a divorce. Last I heard, she was sleeping with a man because he was buying her groceries, marijuana, and helping her pay rent. Story 79. I am divorced and have 2 children. I took her and her children to lunch after meeting her in a mall one day. I had not seen her in over 10 years. We caught up with small talk, and I asked the children if they were hungry. They said yes. I just wanted to spend more time with my crush. After lunch, I asked if I could see her again. She laughed and said she could never go out with someone like me. She had said the same thing to me in high school. That is my life. I am not good enough for anybody. Story 80. Still looks good. I am divorced with a few children. I was the typical high schooler who fell in love with the person I was dating. It took me until college to get out of that mode. Looking back, I was overbearing, to put it gently, a moron. I was way too serious about dating back then. Story 81. I bumped into her last weekend while visiting my parents. She is great and still beautiful. Her husband seems like a really good guy, and they have 2 adorable children. She has a rewarding career teaching at the same Long Island high school we graduated from. My wife and I met them for a couple of drinks that night. We had a great time. Story 82. She went to college with her high school sweetheart. She gained 60 pounds, he left. She became a teacher and was later accused of sleeping with a student. So she left the independent school district and went to another. I lost track after that. It appears I dodged a bullet. Story 83. We got married after both pursuing other relationships, thinking there was no chance. We were best friends who leaned on each other during rough times in our previous relationships until we finally admitted our attraction to one another. We have been together for 18 years. Story 84. He has been a neo-Nazi for about 10 years. I am very glad he was not interested in me. Story 85. We outgrew our feelings for each other and are now best friends. I am very proud of the man he has become. Story 86. Still hot, but she's now one of those girls who posts nothing but Bible quotes and promotes her homemade essential oils and healthcare products. Story 87. She did pretty well for herself. She recently retired and bought a nice house in our hometown after making a lot of money in a larger city. She married a dopey-looking man and had a few kids. She seems happy, But when I last talked to her, I could tell she was the type of person who puts on a face for everyone else. After a few drinks, she told me her life felt like a total waste and that if it were not for her kids, she would have sold everything and moved overseas. Story 88. It is still very hot, and I am some kind of doctor. I am still a dumb loser. Story 89. She has 5 children and is addicted to methamphetamine. I dodged a bullet on that one. Story 90. She exposed her breasts in a home box office show, which was totally unexpected. Story 91. A racist person who has 3 children by 3 different women. I am glad I was too shy to ever make a move. Story 92. He is unemployed, very overweight, lives with his family, and plays video games around the clock. He has not had his first kiss, but he has had a few online girlfriends over the years. He is a nice person and very funny, but he lacks motivation in life. Story 93. He ended up becoming my husband. We hardly spoke in high school, but now we are married with a beautiful daughter and are working on having a second child. Story 94. Is anyone else reading these and hoping one of them describes you? Maybe it is just me. Edit. Wow, I did not expect a reply, let alone an award. I am shocked. Thank you. Story 95. Engineer at Space Exploration Technologies Corporation. Happily married with 2 dogs. Story 96. One became the pastor of a church with views I do not entirely agree with. I have not kept in touch or tracked her, so I am not sure how far she takes those views. Her life took a path that would not have meshed with mine. The other I dated in high school and off and on until I was almost 30. She is married and has a child now. She became strong, smart, and creative. We were dynamite together when things were good. But I do not know how much of the woman I loved remains. I have no regrets about how things turned out between us. I sincerely hope her husband never has to deal with the emotional manipulation or the physical abuse she used to direct at me when things got bad. Story 97. My wife has multiple degrees, is on track to become a full-time educator, and is a mother of 2. I am so lucky. Story 98. We dated, and she ended up leaving me for a methamphetamine user who gave her genital herpes. It all worked out, laughing out loud. Story 99. I dated 2 women. I am married to one. The other is an interesting story. We now live about 2.5 hours away from my hometown, and she and her husband live 3 blocks from us. We discovered this about 3 years ago while taking our kids on a walk and seeing them in their driveway. My wife and the other woman have reconnected since we learned they lived so close, and they have actually been to our house a few times. For the most part, it has been no big deal because it was so long ago, but at first her husband tried to hang out with me or play golf, which I thought was odd. Then I found out he only knew we all went to high school together and did not know I dated his wife for almost a year. I am still not sure he knows how well I knew her. Aside from that, she has turned out well. She is a stay-at-home mom who coaches cross-country. Story 100. My high school crush and I went our separate ways after I went to Vietnam and got married. We continued to write to each other while I was overseas. 3 years ago, we reconnected after she showed me all the letters I had sent her. We are madly in love at age 70. Story 101. My crush is just a text message away, but I intentionally don't contact her because I don't want to know how she turned out or what her life is like now. I want to remember her as my innocent, cute darling from high school. Story 102. He moved back to his home country, committed homicide during a robbery attempt, and was jailed. I have not heard from him since then. Story 103. She is even more beautiful. She is reading over my shoulder right now. Story 104. 1. Harvard Law School. 2. Neurosurgeon. I really know how to pick them, I guess. For the record, both relationships ended well, and I married a hot engineer, so it has been a win-win. Story 105. I'm still dating him. He's cute and funny. He's in medical school while I'm in physician assistant school. Story 106. He is gay but seems successful and happy, so that's good. Story 107. He ended up marrying someone who looked a lot like me. Story 108. You would think most of the people in this thread are splitting atoms and leading fulfilling lives every day given how smug these comments are. Also, she died while driving under the influence, which was common in my hometown. Story 109. She was a cute and fascinating girl who grew into a beautiful, intelligent woman. We had not spoken in over 30 years before connecting on Facebook a couple of years ago. When I went home to visit family, she and I had coffee and spent 3 hours pouring our hearts out to one another at a Starbucks. We both agreed we had made a mistake not being together, but since we are both already married to other people, we decided we should stay away from each other. Now the only communication we have is the occasional like on Facebook posts. Story 110. He is handsome as ever but struggles with mental illness more than I expected. He is single and seems lonely. I think we could have been good friends throughout our lives. It is nice to be in contact with him on Facebook. Story 111. She got married and started a teaching career. She was broadside by a pickup truck in a hit and run and died at the scene. Story 112. I had a crush on him and, as it turned out, he had a crush on me too. We were from a remote rural town and used to go on wholesome road trips, traveling for hours to major cities to attend punk rock shows with our mutual friends. He was 2 years older and kind enough to let me tag along. I could not understand it then. In my eyes, he was far too cool for shy, awkward me. After we grew apart and attended different universities in distant cities, we reconnected on MySpace, which now seems like a long time ago. We have been together for more than 14 years and married for almost 4 years. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.